great getaway.
So welcome to this week's review. This week the episode is all about Monster Cross. At the race that went on in Chesterfield, Virginia, we had Mike Booz, JLH, Ken, Stein, Betty, Leah, and myself all go down for the race to represent the area, and we had a good trip. If you're here looking for footage of the actual race, I'll put a timestamp in the bottom, or you could just scroll through to get there, because this video is going to entail our whole trip from departing here Saturday morning to getting down there, doing a little commute, and then Sunday was the race itself, and then we went to a few breweries afterwards. We have everything included. But without further ado, here's some clips and here's the story.
Brought lots of stuff.
Did Leah show you the picture?
Yeah.
So we met up around 7 a.m. Saturday morning and started loading up the cars, figuring out the logistics of whose gear could fit where. Well, that's it. My car's full. Still waiting on Kenneth.
And stop.
So Ken showed up and we loaded the last of his gear into the car, and then we headed out down the mountain to McDonald's in Luzerne for our pre-car ride breakfast. So after we left McDonald's, we got on the highway and we didn't look back. We made it all the way into Maryland before we had our first rest stop. Maryland! Yeah, let's get out, get for a ride, leg stretch.
It's like as warm as it's gonna get.
Big rides going out in Maryland today.
Fair Hill. Dave's at 11.
His belt matches his glasses. Kevin
Oh, look at that.
Wow, look at those outfits. There's a nice teal blue stripe on
The
the
thing I
hat.
like about it, you could throw this on a suit because it's feeling.
Let's all
You're Chesapeake.
Let's
Do a
all
bite.
feel
You could do a
Ken's
commute, then
belt.
jump and do a cold water plunge.
After the rest stop, we made it into Virginia, and then all of a sudden along the highway, we saw a random sign that said brewery next exit. So we were a little intrigued, so very quickly, because it was within 2 miles, pulled it up on the phones and saw it was Adventure Brewing Company. They were open according to their Facebook page, so took a little minor detour and checked that place out. It was pretty neat. So here's some video from there. Adventure Brewing Company. That was a neat little place, good quick stop. All their beers had some sort of neat title involving some sort of adventure sport like canoeing, kayaking, mountain biking, backpacking, what have you. So very neat. Somebody lost a weave. So I made it to our Airbnb just on the outskirts of Richmond. so we took some time to unload all the gear and get it into its new setting. It's a very nice setup, full kitchen downstairs, dining room, TV room, living room, and then upstairs there was 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, both with showers. It's not officially a Viking house until
You put some mags out?
the mags are out. Once we got to our Airbnb in Richmond, we loaded all the gear in, got a little bit settled, and then the big commute went out. So we had to go over to Hardywood Brewing Company to pick up our race packets. So did a quick search, and it was only, I think it was about 6 miles away. And then the commute included a neat little bridge across the James River that was just pedestrian and bike specific. So we had to see what that was about. So here's some video from the commute.
Look at all of you in those pants. Gary's are like skinny jeans.
We're the Swiss Tack Racing team. Swiss Tack Racing team.
Sponsored by Walmart.
Roll back.
Hashtag roll back. Be safe. Be brave. I hear someone grinding.
My God. Good grief.
Right.
Be safe. Be brave.
Into the sun. We're turning right back up the other way. So we lucked out to get the commute in. Originally they were calling for rain in the evening, but the rain had stopped. Roads were a little wet still, but the sun came back out, and it was probably the nicest it was the whole trip, with the exception of Monday morning. So we rode up about 10 blocks from our house, and then we rolled right onto this bike path, and it was pretty impressive. Look at that.
Oh, that is cool.
Oh,
Look
no
at
way.
a picture out there.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool.
That old man in the sea looking off.
I'll go across that thing. Oh, wow. Wicked current.
Photo spot, right?
Yeah. Richmond, Virginia. Yeah, we wanted to go that way through the construction. So now we get to go over this thing. So many bridges. Cobbles. Yeah.
My hands did not have to do that.
Bonus climb.
Bonus climb.
Huh.
This is steep, right?
Yeah.
Oh. That's a kicker. I haven't put it down yet.
Boss.
Right at the hill, upside down.
To the left. Ooh, that was a good hill. But definitely impressed. They had a good little system of bike lanes down there, and it was very easy to navigate to get where we needed to be. One of the bike lanes went right through VCU campus. And it didn't take long at all. We arrived at Hardywood Brewing Company to pick up our race packets. So we hung outside for a little bit until the rest of the crew showed up, and then we headed in. So we had a drink there, picked up our race stuff, got some to-go beer, and then back across the cobbles. After the commute, we went out for dinner, and then came back home, and everybody crashed out early due to having to get up for the race the next morning. So we got up for the race, packed the bikes up, and headed to Chesterfield, Virginia, which was the site of the race at Pocahontas State Park. This year we actually arrived pretty early. Usually we end up pushing the envelope a little bit, but we got there with plenty of time. So we got a good primo parking spot this year, and then got to relax a little bit before we had to file into our startup line. So next up is coming some clips from the race. So of course had to start the morning off fueling up with hefty calories at Mickey D's. Shortly after a good breakfast, we got to the parking lot at Pocahontas State Park and started to prep for the race. Got our gear on, decided what to wear for the weather, got the gearbox ready, dropped it off, and then made our way to the start line. So the start's always a little chaotic. Besides splitting the group up into the 50 and 25 milers, there's really no differentiation between the categories, so everybody just takes off at once. So after a pavement circuit, you eventually make a right-hand turn and you hit the first section of dirt, which usually stirs up the field. Then once the start calms down, you can finally get into your own pace and find your cadence. And I started way farther back in the field than I wanted to, so here's me coming by Papa Stein. Probably 5-6 miles in. this bridge usually causes a crash every year, but with the damp conditions this year, they had some carpets lined on it, and it seemed to help. And there's Ken coming by, repping the A-Town jersey. And then maybe halfway through the first lap, you hit this long section of pavement, which is kind of a gradual climb, a few rollers mixed in, but this is where you could really make up some ground if you were caught behind. And once you finish that section, you cross the main road of the park that you come in on in the morning. They have the traffic blocked for you, so you don't have to worry about it. And you come into one of the neater sections of the course. You wind through parallel to that road, eventually crossing it again. And then there's a long stretch of more like single track type of trail that you're on. Lieutenant Dan, he ain't got no chain. After that section, you have a brief cruise through the campground before you take this left-hand bend onto this nice dirt straightaway that takes you down to the first longer bridge crossing on the ride. After that bridge, there's a decent climb section with a switchback or two, and then you eventually make your way through a field, which drops you back into the volleyball courts down by the field near the finish line. But you're going to make a right and go across another bridge, which you'll return on later. So this is the aforementioned bridge. As you can see, it's two ways because you're coming right back over this bridge once you do a loop on the other side here. Most of the loop on this side of the bridge is double track like you see here, but there is one neat technical section of single track right before the end, before you recross that bridge that we mentioned, that keeps you on your toes. And then at the end of this lap and the start of the second lap is when the rain started, so the video kind of went south. So not going to show you anything from lap 2, but do have some clips from the finish line.
You got it. Run. Yeah. Yeah, Ken.
I got a fly on mile 46.
Brandon. Where's your cowbells?
We forgot
I saw them. I almost put them in the toolbox too. I don't know why I didn't.
I totally forgot them. And I've been saying that for the past like 3 years that I was going to bring cowbells. Hey, I succeeded. 25 miles and
Yeah.
trashy. That's better than 60 miles. Yeah, nice.
You got it.
Yeah.
Right there.
Wait, I saw Steve.
That's on.
We're going to go get you some chicken. Yeah.
Snotted. Boo's taking hold of gold.
Nice, yeah. Big guy class.
Come on, Steve!
After the race, went back to Richmond to our Airbnb. Everybody showered up, relaxed for a little bit, had a couple post-race drinks there, and then we plotted out our course to go into Richmond to a couple breweries. We had one in mind for sure, which was Bingo Brewing Company, and then we were just going to kind of go from there as to what was still open or not, since it was Sunday and everything seemed to close down a little bit earlier. So here's some clips from that adventure. So our first stop was to Bingo Brewing Company, and this place was pretty cool. They had great food, and then the whole place was just like an adult arcade. They had video games, gigantic skee ball, Connect 4, ping pong, just a neat place with a very relaxed atmosphere. Oh, and I almost forgot, their beer was very good too. We Ubered into Richmond, so we were looking for places within walking distance, and there were a couple breweries, but they seemed to be closed already. But right next door to the Bingo Brewing was the Hoff Garden, and they advertised that they had a large selection of craft beer on tap, so we went there to cap off the night. And that was a neat place. They had an art gallery upstairs, a comedian performing on the second floor, and then the bar area itself down the bottom. And there was a rooftop level as well, but I'm not sure if it was just because it's winter and people are afraid of the cold or just because it was raining, but that was closed. Great time, good trip as always. Like I said, it's funny. Usually we do this trip just because it's a nice escape. Because usually it's in the 50s and 60s down there in February when we're still well below freezing up here. So usually the first year I went down there with Stein, I rode in shorts. The next year I had knickers on, and then this year it was full-on winter gear. So it was not much of a getaway from our standard riding here, but still a good trip and great time all around. So check that out next year if you haven't yet. That's it for this time. We'll see you around.
Tell us about this biscuit, please. Phew.
I get this after my race today. It looks so good and yummy.
I tried to
Oh,
call,
that's too tired to
I
eat
tried
it.
to call you.
What?
I don't want to
So I think maybe tonight.
Too, but it's okay.
I might be eating this tonight. Get some butter on it.
Look at all those
Microwave.
nooks and crannies.
I know. Microwave a little bit.
Oh, and the butter's just gonna go in those dimples.
It's gonna ooze into it.
Oh,
It's gonna be so sexy after I eat it. That's why I'm saving. That's why it's sitting right here for me.
Monster Crossing is always a great getaway.